This video is going to show us how to get started with the as3 Signals open source project created by Robert Penner. First of all, it's really easy, and it's also really simple. So just watch the tutorial for a few minutes and you'll be able to start using it right away. I already have the SWIC linked up to my project, so I'll have all the classes available in the library, so I can just start writing code. First off, we're going to need someone to broadcast the signals. Might as well just name him John, and we'll go ahead and make him a superhero, because maybe that's what he does at nights. We'll put him in the tutorials package. You can put it wherever you want, and we'll make sure that John is a member of this intro class. So let's say, as a superhero, John needs the ability to punch. And we want to know every time John has punched. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a signal, and we're going to call it punched. This is the most important thing to remember, is that signals, they are objects. They are properties of your classes. They are objects created in your classes that that you just use straight from there. So anytime I call this punch method, I'm going to take this punch object and dispatch the signal. So anytime from my main intro class, anytime you see this punch method here, we're going to add a listener. I'm just going to call it John punched. And we're just going to trace out punched. So anytime, just to review real quick, in my superhero I created a punched property, which is a new signal, and anytime you punch, it's going to dispatch the signal. So it's listening for that signal with this John punched method. So once this punches, I should trace out punched. So you see in the console, we get punched, which is exactly what we were expecting. So you can see how much boilerplate code this removes. I did not have to create an event. I did not have to dispatch that event with the event types and everything. All I did was create a signal object and use the dispatch method with the signal object. Also, this class did not need to extend an event dispatcher if you're used to that process. So you can just put signals on any plain old object. The superhero is as simple object as you can create. Obviously, what you probably want to do is, maybe you want to have it dispatch, a couple arguments. So say you want to say I hit the bad guy, because that's what superheroes do. And all you'd have to do is just say, let's see what the action, I guess I'll call it. So if we trace out this action, so this action will link up to whatever this message is. And once we run this, you'll see it says, I hit the bad guy, because you can pass this string along with the signal. So you just have to make it as an argument in this in the listener handle, or whatever you want to call it. So you can put whatever type of object, whether it be string, number, value objects, whatever you want to dispatch, you can put whatever you want in there. And if you want to make sure that these are typed correctly at runtime, you can actually type in, oops, that is not the right place. You can type inside the signal the type that you want it to check against. So right now, if I try this, it'll work, because I hit the bad guy is a string. If I said, well, I want it to be numbers, you'll get an argument error, and it'll say the value I hit the bad guy is not a number. So you can type, you can do multiple, you can do string, number. You can just put as many arguments in there as you'd like. So we'll just leave that as string, and just there you go. It has a runtime type checking. So what we're going to do here is, just to prove that it works, see if I punch multiple times and run it, you'll see I hit the bad guy fires multiple times. But what happens if you only wanted to capture the first one? You can just come in here and say, well, I only wanted to add it once. I only want John punched to handle the very first punch. So you see it only works once. So you could do things like maybe you have John punched, we'll do add once, John first punched, and then we'll have this guy listen for all of them. Oops, got a little bit lost there. So John first punched, it's going to be a function, and we'll just trace out first punch, and I'll just put it above there so you know that that was the first punch. So this is only going to listen for the very first one, and then it'll be done. Whoops, compiled the wrong one. Signals intro. Oh, you'll see that there's good type checking there, because what didn't I do? I didn't put any arguments in here, so this has to take the action as well. So this one will be first punch with the action, signals intro, and the debugger kind of hung there anyway, so it'll work this time. So you'll see that you got the first punch, and then you got the subsequent I hit the bad guys. First punch only being handled once, I hit the bad guys being handled every time it happens. Now what happens if after you punch a couple of times, maybe you're tired of watching him punch, so you can just do remove and say John punched. So this will only listen to the first two. So now we should get first punch and then two of the I hit the bad guys. Then these will just go ignored because there won't be any listeners tied to the signals. So you see first punch, 1, 2, and then the rest of them are ignored. This also, you can just, instead of removing just the one, you can remove every single listener associated with the punch signal, and it'll work the same way. Imagine you had a whole bunch of listeners all tied to that. So it's really super simple to add listeners, really super simple to remove them. I'm sure you're probably used to doing, if John has event listener, punch event dot punch, punch John punched event handler, whatever. There's huge long syntax you're avoiding here, and just getting rid of a whole lot of boilerplate code, and it's really just narrowed down to this really super simple, really awesome API. So we're just going to, this is the most basic signal. It's the one just for checking once a method is fired or whatever. But you'll probably want to do a little bit more advanced things. So let's say you want to know what the target of the signal was, or in the signal handler, the signal listener, you want to know what signal it was that broadcast that. So we can step up our signal capabilities a little bit by using the Deluxe Signal, and we'll again make this public. And in the Deluxe Signal we have to pass in the target, and in this scenario the target is going to be this. We're going to just create a kick method here. We'll make it public, and every time you kick, it's going to say, hey, I kicked. And what you can do in here is, if you pass in a new generic event, then when you create your handlers in here, say John kicked, add John kicked, I'll make sure that John kicks. And we'll set up our handler, our listener. Oops. So we'll go into the John kicked, and we'll say this will take an event of a generic event, and we'll be able to trace out or be able to use the event event target, which will be John, the superhero, and also the event signal. So we can, after the event, the generic event is fired, we can manipulate John however we want to, or we can remove listeners or add more listeners to the signal, etc., etc. We'll just show that this is working. You'll see object superhero, which is John, object deluxe signal, which is the kicked signal. So that brings you up to the capabilities you're used to when just dispatching a regular event, is having the target of what came with the signal and the actual signal. And then you can pass along, whatever parameters you want along with that. So the third type of signal is probably what you're so used to working with, like clicking on something or using the native events. So what the signal is called, it's called a native signal. For example, we'll set up a native signal called clicked. The target's going to be this. The event type is going to be mouse event click, and the event class is going to be mouse event. Now clicked, let's create our field here. So to actually be able to use click, we need to make it extend sprite so we can actually have some clickability. Let's import that, and then we'll write some boilerplate graphics code here. Begin fill, make it a red color, draw rectangle, 0, 0, 100, 100, and then we'll end our fill. So if we go into the signals intro, and now after we create John, we're going to add him to the stage, and you'll see that John is now a red square. So anytime, what we're going to set up, so anytime you click, we're going to be able to handle that as well. Now watch how easy this is to manage. We set up clicked, the target, the type of event we want. Now all we have to do is say John clicked, add John clicked, now when we handle this, we're going to have to make sure that we use the same type of event class we passed in. So the event is going to be a mouse event, and we'll say John clicked. And you'll see here, compile it, start clicking on it, we get the John clicked events. Again, really super simple, really easy to write, manage, add, remove, everything. And just to show you another variation of this, let's say we have a timer set up. So we got a timer. We'll give it a delay of 100 milliseconds. We'll create our timer field. That can remain private. We don't need to expose that. And timer start. Now, typically to do this, you'd have to set up all this. Anytime the timer was fired, you'd have to add event listener timer, set up your method to listen to the event in here, and in there you'd have to dispatch it so that signals intros could listen to it. Really all we're going to have to do here is, let's say, we'll call this signal run, and we'll just put it in a native signal with the target this time being timer, the event type being timer, and the event class being timer event. So our signal is going to be run. Go into our signals intro. We'll say John run add John run, and we'll create our function here. So John, I must have messed something up in the superhero. Oh, missed the new keyword. So new native signal. What is failing this time? Cannot assign native signal to the class. Cannot assign native signal to the class. Okay, who sees what I'm missing? Oh, since I didn't have the new keyword, when it created it cast it as a class instead of a native signal. Anyway, sorry for the little detour there. So run is a new native signal targeting the timer. It's going to handle that timer event. And so when we create our function for John run, the event will be a timer event, and we'll be able to say John is running. So here I am running, clicked, I'm running, I'm clicked, I'm running. You know, punch, kick, click, run, you know, everything a good superhero can do. So that's signals in a nutshell. I hope you see the power behind them. I hope you see how you can use these signals as, you know, you can use them in your interfaces. You can, you know, pass them around easily. Anyway, I'm not going to just start talking and not showing. I'm much better at showing than talking. So that's signals. Enjoy it, have fun with it. Great project, and there you go.